Have you ever told yourself everything happens for a reason when deep down you were hurting? Or posted love and light while avoiding the chaos inside? What if your spiritual practices are actually your escape? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into one of the most important and misunderstood topics in modern spirituality, spiritual bypass. If you've ever felt stuck in your growth, disconnected despite your devotion, or suspicious that something is missing in your journey, this conversation is for you. Because sometimes the pursuit of peace is actually a disguise for emotional avoidance, and healing begins where honesty begins. Let's unpack what's really going on. Imagine this. Your friend just went through a painful breakup. Are devastated. You meet for coffee, and instead of truly sitting with their grief, they smile and say, "It's all love, I'm just focusing on the blessings." Or maybe it's you've had a rough week, overwhelmed, anxious, maybe even angry, but instead of acknowledging it, you light a candle, pull a tarot card, recite a mantra, and post gratitude always. Feels spiritual, looks spiritual, but underneath, you're bypassing. So what exactly is spiritual bypass? Spiritual bypassing is the tendency to use spiritual ideas, practices, or beliefs to avoid facing unresolved emotional pain, psychological wounds, or personal responsibility. It's not about the practices themselves, it's about how we use them. When we use meditation to silence uncomfortable emotions instead of understanding them. When we use positive affirmations to deny grief. When we use concepts like karma or a divine timing to avoid accountability. That's spiritual bypass. Seductive because it feels like growth. You're journaling, you're meditating, you're raising your vibration, but deep down, you're not getting real. Let's explore the deceptive disguises of spiritual bypass. It's not always obvious. In fact, some of the most common bypassing behaviors are hiding in plain sight. Here are a few red flags. Everything is love and light. Sounds beautiful, right? But if you're using this to dismiss pain, anger, or injustice, is bypassing. Good vibes only. This phrase has become a cultural mantra, but real life includes all vibes. Denying the uncomfortable ones doesn't elevate you, it fragments you. It's all part of the divine plan. While this can be a comforting belief, it's also often used to avoid processing grief, betrayal, or trauma. You're attracting this. When used carelessly, the law of attraction can become a weapon blaming people for their suffering instead of supporting them. Spiritual bypass shows up everywhere in self-help circles, wellness retreats, yoga studios, even therapy. In self-care, bypassing looks like constantly cleansing energy, but never examining patterns. In relationships, it looks like ghosting someone and calling it protecting your peace. In activism, it looks like ignoring injustice because we're all one anyway. Let's be clear, optimism isn't the problem, hope isn't the problem, believing in divine timing or manifestation isn't the problem. The problem is using these tools to avoid what's real. There's a difference between genuine acceptance and spiritual bypassing. Genuine acceptance says, "This hurts, and I'm willing to sit with it." Bypassing says, "This hurts, but I'll pretend it doesn't because that's not spiritual." So what's the cost? Why is spiritual bypass so dangerous? Let's break it down. When we bypass our emotions, we don't process them, we suppress them. And suppressed emotions don't disappear, they leak, fester. They show up in our relationships, our bodies, our decisions. They become chronic anxiety, emotional numbness, disconnection, passive aggression. You might find yourself endlessly chasing the next retreat, the next book, the next energy healing, but nothing sticks. Because no amount of light will heal what you're refusing to look at in the dark. Bypassing also blocks true intimacy. You can't connect deeply with others if you're not being honest with yourself. You might feel like you're doing all the right things, but still feel stuck, flat, lost. Because you can't skip steps in healing. You can't bypass your way to wholeness. So how do we move beyond bypass? It begins with one thing: honesty. Ask yourself, what feelings am I avoiding right now? What part of my story still hurts, and why am I pretending it doesn't? What spiritual ideas have I used to dodge responsibility or pain? Then, feel. Let the grief rise, let the anger speak, let the fear have a voice, not to drown in it, but to understand it. You don't have to do this alone. Seek support. Whether it's a therapist, a coach, or a trusted friend, healing is a relational process. Self-compassion is crucial. Bypassing isn't a moral failure. It's a survival strategy. It's how we try to protect ourselves from what feels too big. But growth begins when we stop hiding from ourselves. This is where spiritual integration comes in. Integration means weaving your humanity into your spirituality. It means making space for grief and gratitude, for rage and reverence, for doubt and devotion. It means using spiritual tools to meet your truth, not escape it. Try this simple practice. The 3-question check-in daily. What emotion am I feeling right now? What would I say to that part of me if I weren't trying to fix it? What's one action I can take to honor that truth? This builds emotional fluency, self-trust, real healing. Because true spirituality includes the shadow. It includes crying on the floor as much as meditating on a mountain. It includes facing your wounds, not just your worth. And on the other side of that discomfort, freedom, authenticity, peace, not the kind you perform, but the kind you become. So here's the invitation. Take a look at your spiritual practices, or mantras, or affirmations, or rituals. Ask yourself, are these tools for growth or for avoidance? It's not about shaming yourself. It's about reclaiming yourself. Because real spirituality isn't always pretty. It's not always calm. It's not always Instagrammable. Sometimes it's messy, hard, but it's real. And that's what transforms you. Thank you for being here, for being brave enough to explore the harder truths. If this message resonated, I invite you to share in the comments, have you ever caught yourself in spiritual bypass? How are you learning to come back to your truth? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who's ready to walk a real spiritual path, not just a performative one. Until next time, stay grounded, stay honest, and remember your wholeness includes your shadows. Let them speak.